Okay, my outstanding friends, if you've been with me for a while now, you know that I've been focusing on enzymes, bacteria, different invasive diseases, chronic conditions, and now it's become a big thing that they're understanding now the importance of enzymes. Now they're giving them names. They're not really naming them. They're calling them like TTPP1 or something, and it relates to what the enzyme does, but basically they're enzymes. Now they came up with one now for a nasal tau immunotherapy, clears intracellular tau pathology, improves cognitive functions in aged tauopathy mice. Well, what does that mean? It means Alzheimer's and Parkinson's and diseases like that, which are because of neurological problems, and it's called tau entanglements and these globs of fibers that they're not getting cleaned out. You need an enzyme up there to break them down so that they can flush out of there. This is what's happening, and they put in this one shot, and it cleared right up almost instantaneously. This is very, very intriguing, especially for somebody at my age bracket. Okay, this is a true statement. Recent scientific studies reveal the importance of microbes. Despite common misconceptions, most microbes are more helpful than harmful to humans and the planet. Misunderstood microbes, National Geographic, and they are totally misunderstood. Okay, this is from Cornell. Enzyme digests amyloid beta associated with Alzheimer's disease. These are these tau entanglements. All right, and it is an enzyme. Everything is an enzyme. And they digest and dissolve these things. All right, just pay close attention to this. Enzymes, which is what we're talking about, made by bacteria, speed up chemical reactions by millions to trillions of times. For example, reactions that would take years without enzymes can happen in fractions of a second with the right enzyme. So what happens is called click chemistry. The enzyme is one of these big, well, hold on, I'll show you what it looks like. Let's stay focused. Here's what the enzyme looks like, except I can't find it. Hold on one second. Oops, I'm sorry, my friends. Here's the enzyme right here. Now that comes from a ribosome, which is a tiny ball. And these are click chemistry. When they find an intruder that matches this signature, click, 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 and they go on and kill them one right after another. They call them serial killers. Now we got a lot of work to do on here, but here's the key to everything. This paper just came out. They have a tau nasal squirter. Immunotherapy clears ultracellular tau pathology, improves cognitive functions in aged mice. Right? They had Alzheimer, basically, Alzheimer's disease. And in 2 weeks, they improved. And one shot of this stuff in the brain, because it can break the brain-blood barrier, because they put it into what's called a mycelia, which are like little balls. And they're so tiny, they could squirt right in and then fix the brain. Before, they couldn't get past the brain-blood barrier. Because here's the deal. An enzyme, as I just showed you, is that gigantic particle. Now, here's what an enzyme is. It's like this. When it is first originally a ribosome, it's like this. All right, that can go up through the blood barrier. That can't get through. It just can't get through. It's just too big. It can't get there. But this, once it gets on the other side, if it gets called on to do a job, it turns into that. So it can go through the blood barrier and then open up. What they did was they put what's called mycelium right around and sealed up these enzymes. And they call them, I can't remember the name of it, there's a sequence of numbers and letters. And what they're doing now is they're naming the enzymes. And all they are is enzymes. Now they have to get them up into the blood-brain barrier if you're working in the your brain fibers, and the complexity of the neural fibers in your brain is so out of control you could never even possibly imagine. Every single fiber has to be insulated, every single fiber, and that insulation has to be flawless. And inside of the cells, let me show you something. We're talking about ribosomes. Those are the little chemistry sets, and here's what they are. They come out of bacteria, and then they open up into what I just showed you, these enzymes and proteins. But first they come through the ball. The ball can go in anywhere it wants, and it doesn't eat, it doesn't poop, it doesn't do anything. It's not alive. It's not alive, but it has some kind of chemistry on it that when it gets touched by something it doesn't like, it pops into this. The sheath comes off, and all bets are off for the intruder. Okay, we're going to talk about the blood-brain barrier, because that's the key. When these things are in their ribosome phase, when they're a little ball like this, they can easily go through the blood-brain barrier, no problem whatsoever. However, when they unsheath and they come like this, it's a whole different story. When they're in the little ball, right through. This is what's perplexed them forever. They could never figure out how to get this medicine up into the brain. They know apparently they know a lot of the chemicals that are involved, but they just had no way of doing it. They were trying to disrupt it with sound waves and all kinds of stuff. Let me show you what they wrote about this. Hold on. You see, here it is right here. They're still trying to breach the blood-brain barriers, try to just open it up like a big, so they can put all these big chemistry in there, which will, they think, help to fix the chemistry in your brain. But it's just tiny little bits and pieces right now. It says the human brain most protected organ for good reason. To keep our control center safe, pathogens and toxins, brain spinal cord sits in privileged exclusion from the rest of the body. It's to get into there, you can't get through there. Today, virtually all large molecule drugs, more than 98% of small molecule drugs in the human bloodstream are just unable to enter the nervous system. They can't get it. It's locked out. It's too small. They're trying to get that through that with something huge. It's called the blood-brain barrier. All right, so they're trying to figure out how they can open it up, and they use all kinds of different methods. But really what you want to do is to shoot in here with the ribosomes. What we need to do is be able to harvest ribosomes with the enzymes in them. They don't eat anything. They don't poop. I would imagine they have a good storage life. And then if you need them, you just take the enzymes, take the ribosomes, and then the enzymes are in there. You can't just take the enzymes. The enzymes are too big. Listen to me very carefully about this. This is just terribly important you understand this. These balls are the ribosomes. The bacteria squirt them all into your bloodstream. For all day long, that's all they do is squirt out ribosomes. The ribosomes are free floaters. They go anywhere they want, and they collect inside the cell bodies. And they're just waiting there to do chemistry. They don't poop, they don't eat, they don't disrupt anything, they just float around having a good time. And when they're called on, they explode into one of these, and instantaneously, click chemistry takes over and kills or breaks down the food. Because you need these to break down food. You need them to kill incoming invaders. You need them to actually break down your own body. It's called apoptosis. When part of your body dies, you can't just leave it laying there. Something's got to happen to it. So you squirt a bunch of enzymes on it, and it turns into goo, and whoever takes it away, some bacteria comes along and starts eating that, and they take it away, and then they bring it over maybe to the lymph nodes or wherever the dump is, and they dump it. And the body takes care of all this stuff. All these enzymes, they're absolutely stunning at the capabilities. Now, the other possibility here is proteins. So let's say you've damaged a bone, or your muscle got torn or something. You need some more muscle or bone or whatever it is. Somewhere in your body, there'll be a signal that says, hey, we got to add some bone over here. And one of these bacteria that makes bones, not the one that makes the killer breaker part stuff, the enzymes, one that makes bones or muscles or whatever, they're all going to be different. That ball comes out and opens up into a protein, which is a little piece of bone. Think of it that way. And these are building blocks. So it's a building block of bone. These are breaking things. They're like, they just destroy stuff. But they all come from a ribosome, and that way they can float anywhere they want, and then they collect inside the cytoplasm of the cell. There are millions of them in here. They can have up to 10 million in just floating around in here. And if you need them, they turn on, and the chemistry is so elegant and so instantaneous, it's beyond belief. This can go on forever. So let's just pay attention to what we're talking about here. We've got enzymes that digest amyloid beta, which is associated with Alzheimer's disease. Now, enzymes break apart virtually everything, and they're needed to clean up your brain stuff. All the stuff that's up there that's accumulated, it's like an attic full of dust and nasty stuff, cobwebs and everything else. You need somebody to get up there and clean it up. That's what an enzyme does. And when you're young, it does it nice. But when you get older, the bacteria that was living there gets old too. So, I'm getting older too. So that's what happens. It just happens. Okay, I'm going to explain to you exactly how the membranes work in the cells. Now, this is from the Boulder School for Condensed Matter and Materials Physics from Yale. Now, let's take a look at what they have to say about the membranes. Now, I am going to focus in on one specific place, but this is an animal cell, and every single thing in it has membranes. There's membranes everywhere. A plant cell is very similar and also has membranes everywhere. Now, we got the endoplasmic reticulum, the plasma membrane. This is what I'm going to focus in on here, is the micelle. All right, now, the reason we're going to be talking about this is because what they did, this is only 2 nanometers. That's 2 billionths of a meter is this size, which is about what's inside this micelle. Now, what they did was they packed enzymes into this little tiny thing, and then squirted it up into the brain, in the brain area, and it could migrate right in to the brain matter, basically, because they're the size of ribosomes. They're very, very small compared to what an enzyme is, which is huge. All right, so they're coming in with this. All right, but inside it's packed with all of this stuff here, which is the enzyme, and it goes wherever something. I don't know how they trigger it. This is what interests me. They put it in here, surrounded by micelle. What triggers it to invade? That's what I'd like to see. All right, here's the key right here. TPP1 is an enzyme, and it is one of dozens of enzymes in live cells that can degrade proteins. Proteins are building blocks. They have to be destroyed. It's just like when you destroy a building, you got to break it all into pieces and take the pieces out. Well, some of these pieces are just, you can't break them. Some of them are just almost indestructible. The only thing that can degrade them is another enzyme. So you have proteins that say, oh, you're not breaking me, I'm staying there forever. But an enzyme comes in and says, oh yeah, done. Now, so here's the deal. TPP1 is one of dozens of enzymes, just thousands, tens of thousands, in every living cell that can degrade proteins. You have to break things down to get them out of there. It's 100% certain in every cell you'll have to do that. Now, this was from the chairman of this distinguished professor of neuroscience at Cornell. They were very nice to me. I dealt with Cornell years and years ago, and they were one of the nicest that I talked to. I didn't get anywhere, but now this is in quotations. Our study is the first to find that TPP1, which is an enzyme, can effectively break down peptides, which I will show you in a minute, associated with Alzheimer's disease and are normally very resistant to degradation. All right, so what do we got here? Let's visualize what we got. All right, you see this? We're going to be looking for amyloid beta, and they are fibrils. This is the situation they build up in the brain, these amyloid beta fibrils. All right, enzyme digests amyloid beta, which is associated with Alzheimer's disease. So let's look into that. All right, I'm not going to get crazy, but we're going to be talking about the ganglion and the basal ganglia. And here's what happens. The basal ganglia are thought to play a key role in action selection, how you move your body and so forth, aiding in the choice of behaviors to execute. Go this way or go that way and so forth. It's just very, very quick and rapid responses. More specifically, they regulate motor and pre-motor cortical areas, facilitating smooth voluntary movements so that you're not stiff and so forth, and we know what that's going on right now. And everybody is going to come to this point where you're going to have either Alzheimer's or Parkinson's or some dementia or something like that because of these plaque buildups. Now let's look into that, because now they think they have a way to clear them. So now this goes back 5-6 years. For this, they found this particular enzyme is associated with Alzheimer's disease, and it digests these amyloid beta. And that's the only way you can do this is with an enzyme. That's the only thing that has enough power to break down these particular beta amyloids. They're everywhere, but they're normally broken down by enzymes. As you get older, you don't have the enzymes because you don't have the bacteria. The bacteria promote the enzymes in your body. That's the only thing that makes them. 100% of your enzymes in your body are made by bacteria. If you don't have the enzyme, you will not have the product that breaks down the amyloid beta. It's just not going to happen. You're not going to digest it. So it just builds up, and then you go, you can't do anything. And this also happens to very young kids too. And it happens to everybody all across the board, but primarily it's when you're building your immunities and you're trying to figure out a way to fight back against these things, and for some reason you've been invaded by antibiotics or who knows what, and you don't have any biotic in you to fight back and to grow to become immune to these things, and that's when kids get these long chronic diseases. And all right across the board now they're finding out enzymes are related to virtually all the diseases, especially the neural diseases, autism and all those behavioral things. And it really affects your behavior, something terrible. They know this. They just didn't put the pieces together. You need the correct bacteria to put that enzyme inside a little ball like this, which is called a ribosome. And the ribosomes can go anywhere in the body. The blood-brain barrier, no problem. Right up inside. But once they get where they need it to do, and they pop, boom, they do that. So now they would normally never be able to get up through the blood-brain barrier. That's why they know they can make things happen if they had these enzymes. So now what they have done is they engineered what they call a micelli, which is a little ball, and they squirt this TPP, whatever it is. Hold on. I just stumbled on this link to MS, multiple sclerosis, and degradation, the enzymatic cascade in development and progression of central nervous system inflammation disease, multiple sclerosis. Now, they're talking about enzymes. Enzymes are the things that create that almost instantaneous chemistry. Now, they can break things down, they can build things up, they can stop things from invading you, or they can invade you. They're all the same thing. Some of them are good, some of them are bad. Now, enzymes are basically the same thing as proteins, only enzymes break things and invade things. And they come from the same package, which is called a ribosome, and a ribosome could turn into a protein which builds things. And I'm going to show you this in detail. My point being here is I'd love to know what kind of bacteria the people with MS have versus everybody else, because they're talking about lesions and all these kind of spinal fluid changes, and I mean just every protease, that's an enzyme. As far as I'm concerned, there is nothing that can work fast enough to do nucleophilic invasion and substitution. It just can't happen. It's so fast, these enzymes, to break things down up to trillions of times a second. It's just never going to happen in nature. So if you're just waiting for those things to happen in your body, you're going to die. Okay, this is the latest research on, these neurodegenerative diseases, and they're relating it all to enzymes. Now, this is about a nasal tau immunotherapy clears intracellular tau pathology, improves cognitive functions in aged tapathy mice. In other words, they've got Alzheimer's, Parkinson's, whatever it is. Now, this is the regular scientific article about it. They're talking about it today. New Alzheimer nasal spray clears toxic tangles in human neurons and mice. Now, they haven't done it, I don't believe, in a trial in an actual walking around human, but they have done it with cadavers. And they found that, well, here's the deal. Here's what happens. You see this? This is your brain. All right, these are neurons. All right, and they have all these ganglia hanging off them, and they go to here and they go to there, and they all communicate together. Well, they can get tangled up. And they get tangled up, and they twisted and tangled proteins are found in the brain of many who die with Alzheimer's disease. Sometimes scientists suspect neural knots can harm and even kill brain cells. But so far in clinical trials, drugs that have tried to target the tangles have shown limited success. These tangles are something that is a natural process in the body, but it's supposed to be cleared out, and it's just not, you don't have the enzyme to do it. So they're very, very tough and tenuous. And as a matter of fact, I should show you what they look like and their modus operandi. Now, here's the deal though. A promising new medicine has now been introduced by an international team led by researchers at the University of Texas. The nasal spray can bypass the blood-brain barrier because it's so small. They put it in these tiny little micelles, or just like a ribosome, and it blasts tangles of tau proteins in living mice. It comes in and it just kills them. The drug also works at clearing tangles from within and between the human neurons in the lab, so they can see it actually wiping out all these things. Now listen to this. This is pretty amazing, I think. The medicine was specially designed to recognize and destroy the most toxic form of tau proteins. That's what an enzyme does. It recognizes it, and then it goes and destroys it. That's what an enzyme does, and I'm sure that's what these are, is enzymes. Although I can't be positive of that, but so I don't see any other possibility. Anyway, they target and destroy the most toxic form of the tau proteins, like that seen in some cases of Alzheimer's and dementia. Now, that wasn't the only challenge. The researchers had to figure out how to get the medicine past the blood-brain barrier. So they knew they could do this in the lab. They could destroy these toxins. But how are they going to get into the blood-brain barrier? It's a very, very tiny little restriction. Well, the ribosomes can do that quite easily. And the micelles they engineered appear to have been able to do that quite easily as well. And they put up the molecules inside of a tiny little ball, and that ball can squeak into the membranes, into the cells, and work just exactly like a ribosome. So they had to figure out how to get it past the blood-brain barrier. That's the key. Because your brain is supposed to be protected. So anyway, they decided to package the medicine into tiny bubbles. That's what a ribosome is, a tiny bubble. Can slip past cell membranes. Exactly what I just said. By spraying the medicine up the nose of mice, they were able to get around the blood-brain barrier. They just walked right in because they're so tiny. In aged mice with tau-associated brain disease, a single spray was all that was needed to clear these toxic taus from the brain. 2 weeks later, the mice showed improved cognitive functions. That is pretty astounding. Now, this is in mice. And again, I don't give any medical advice whatsoever. This is strictly research, but this is pretty incredible to me. And this just came out today. Here it is right here. This is where the ribosomes come from. And that's the only place they come from, is from bacteria. And they squirt out these ribosomes. If you don't have the ribosome, you don't get the chemistry, because that is what turns into that enzyme I just showed you, that exotic enzyme right here. Now, where do you hear this? This is a nightmarish, unbelievable thing, but it is true. These ribosomes are so small that there could be literally millions of them in one single cell, and they are in every one of our cells. They all have these ribosomes. Let me show you what the cell looks like. Here it is right here. This is an animal cell. All right. You see that? These are ribosomes. These little balls there. That's on the endoplasmic reticulum. They're glued to these walls. However, they're in here floating everywhere. They're everywhere in here, in the cytoplasm, which is the fluids that's in here. And you got mitochondria, you got Golgi apparatus, you got lysosomes, you got, it's unbelievable. Every single cell in your body, every single one. And then it has a nucleus. And these membranes that surround every single cell in your body, they're phospholipid membranes, phosphorus and fats. And it allows things to come in and things to go out at its direction. You can't just let anything in and let anything out. It's got to be directed by something. Now, that's what the cell does. And there's all kinds of different cells in your body. It's not just one kind of cell that does everything in your body. So, and there's muscle cells and there's different types of, bone and I don't know, I can't tell you exactly that much about the cellular structure other than the fact that it works on exotic chemistry provided by enzymes. That's where my focus is right now. I understand that there's different styles of organelles, they call them, like in the I was looking, like in the pancreas and the gallbladder, islets of Langerhans and all that stuff. They're very specialized organisms, but what they are is factories. They're factories. And you say, ooh, they produce stuff. No, they don't produce anything. They're factories. The enzymes inside the factory produce the stuff. What's happening in here is getting produced by the enzymes. These are not producing anything. These have, the mitochondria use these things to produce energy. Some of the other stuff uses these things to make proteins, which are building blocks, which are bone and muscle and tendon and all that stuff, and then they link together to be what they call polypeptide chains like this. And they only link in certain ways. And when they do, that certain way, it becomes some special type of chemistry. And that's what happens inside every single cell in your body. Even red blood cells have a membrane around them. It's just incredible. Incredible. All right, so you saw the cell. Well, this is a specialized cell called a neuron, and it's a nerve cell, and it has all these ganglions and dendrites and all these things hanging off of it that interact with other neurons, nerve cells, and they transfer information back and forth through these branches. Very, very, it's unbelievable. And there's bazillions of these. And they all have the cytoplasm and all. There's the little ribosomes everywhere inside here. And they go bad. And when I say they go bad, it appears they don't actually go bad. They get entangled with this tau stuff and these Lewy bodies, they call it. But right down here, these microtubules, they're supposed to come out of a myelin, a myelin sheath coats this microtubules, and these are where your signals go to somewhere. Whatever they do, I don't know. But if they get all wrapped up and tangled, it appears that they don't transfer the way they should, and you have trouble understanding and listening and hearing, and there's a whole list of things that I've been studying this pretty thoroughly, and I want to understand it. Alzheimer is a complicated, it's a complex web of things, but they all relate to neurosensory things. Like, how do you relate to your environment? When you look at something, believe me, you'll get to where I am at some point in your life, because I'm pretty close to that. I notice a difference in my mental acuity, let's call it that way. I don't have a hard time with the research, But I cannot remember things from even a short time ago. That just goes. Now, is that a specific place in my mind? Specific type of entanglement right there where the memory is stored? Because there's different compartments in your brain. Not all things happen here, and they're all just one thing that happens everywhere. No. There's certain areas you're going to control your motor stuff. In other words, your eyeballs and all that type of shit. And there's one area that's called I forget what they're called, but anyway, it just controls your normal everyday activities. You don't have to think about it. No thinking involved. No response. Let's call it that way. There's no response required. You breathe. Your blood pumps. All of this, it's autonomic nervous system, I think they call it. It means it just happens. You don't have to do anything. But sometimes you gotta do whatever you gotta do to make your life function, to keep the wolves away. You know what I'm saying? You gotta decide how to react. And a lot of that, I'm having a hard time sometimes. I know I'm not as sharp as I was. Let me go with that. Now, if there was a way to clear up these entanglements, if these are true, and it appears that they are, I'm going to go with that line of thinking that they are true, and these exchange areas where they exchange stuff is maybe all tangled up like this, where it's supposed to be like that. Think of it that way. Now, I've been showing this because this is a mind blower. You see all these nerve fibers? Every single one of those has to be insulated from the next one to it, totally insulated. And you can see them in the microscopic shots. It's just exactly like a wire with insulation around it, and every one of them has to be perfect. Otherwise, you get short circuits. It doesn't conduct the signal, and all kinds of problems. Now, you see all these different colors? Those colors represent different chemistry. Different chemistry represents different types of nerve fibers. Different type of nerve fibers are coated with different types of coatings. Some of them are heavy into electrical signals, and some of them are chemical or whatever they are. I don't really know the details of the nerve fibers. I do know that every one of them connects, there's bundles connect to certain areas. And then they come down and they go down through the vagus nerve, through the body. And here's the vagus nerve. Right here. This comes out of your brain stem, right down here. All of your things come off of this vagus nerve, all of your nervous signals. Your eyeballs, salivary, heart, lungs, liver, gallbladder, stomach, spleens, pancreas, all your sex organs, all that. And they all trunk together through this vagus nerve. They call it the parasympathetic innervation. And that's where all of these signals travel. And they bundle up together, which is kind of interesting. And they bundle up together, which I got to look at a little more deeply, but primarily all they are is a network, so everybody gets regulated by the same central processor. All right, this is central processor. Everybody's got to work together. Your eyeballs got to work with your arms and your hands and your feet and and then there's some stuff just does what it's supposed to do. The heart, the lungs, all of that stuff in there. You don't have to turn your stomach on. You just eat. Now, some of this stuff here is you can hold your urine. Some people can. Anyway, this is some of this. Your kidneys. Well, you got a little bit of control on this stuff, but this stuff is no control at all. It just happens. Although your heart, you run, you jump, you do this and that, it gets pumps harder and harder. But all of that is autonomic stuff. Yeah, there it is right there. Autonomic plexus. Right in it. All of these right here. They all work together. All right. And this is pelvic nerves. All that stuff. So this is a very, very complicated machine we live inside of, my friends. And then way up in your brain, you have all this stuff, which are all your fibers. And they run down into that vagus nerve I just showed you, and from that it trunks back and forth into everything in your body, because every feeling, every bit of everything has to be tied into a nerve that I believe virtually all of them end up in your brain. It's just a big long series of wiring. Even though they just show it just to here, there's much more than that to this. There's all kinds of nerves going in and out of there. I believe they're showing this as the organ portion of it, but everything else runs out of here too. It controls your fingers, your toes, your everything.